Hey y'all, I'm Kara Perez, founder of Bravely Go, and today we are going to talk about the problematic financial dependence of the TradWife movement. This video is brought to you by our patrons. Our patrons help us create this content on this channel because, as you may have noticed, I rarely do sponsored videos. I don't work with that many companies. And in order to pay myself and to pay the women who work with me, we have our patrons. So if you are into this kind of content and you want to help us create more of this and you want to help us pick which topics to cover, please consider becoming a patron at the link in the description. You also get lots of cool perks like event discounts, quarterly AMAs with me, and exclusive content. So find that link in our description. If you are not familiar, TradWife is a nickname for saying traditional wife. And it refers to a subsection of wives and husbands who live their lives according to a very specific set of rules. Each couple seems to amend the rules for themselves according to what they specifically want from their partnership, but the general rules seem to be married in a straight relationship. The man works, the wife does not. The man is the head of the household and the final word on all things financial, lifestyle, and professional for the family. Kids are a part of the plan, if not already in the family. As a money nerd, I wanted to dive into the TradWife movement, not from a social perspective. I'm not here to tell you to be or to not be a TradWife, but I wanted to explore this from the financial perspective. Because this kind of an arrangement can be very dangerous and leave you very vulnerable, and it's something that I think people are not talking about enough. So if you're into this, please give us a thumbs up to boost us in the algorithm. Additionally, I feel like I also need to say before we dive in that I am someone who loves being at home, okay? And I love some of the domestic arts. I make my own candles, check it out right here. I do most of the cooking in my relationship. I want to learn how to sew. I would love to have a garden one day. This video is not about dumping on anyone who is the primary caretaker or homemaker out there in their family and their relationships. I'm not here to belittle anyone, but I'm also someone who doesn't think that I need to give up working or give up access to my own bank account in order to have a garden. And TradWives do. A core part of the TradWife lifestyle is that the man works outside the home and the wife works exclusively inside the home. This is the most important value to the whole dynamic. And TradWives and their husbands often say that this is a return to more traditional values, particularly the 1950s in the United States. During this time, they say women were predominantly homemakers and mothers, and men worked outside the home and were the financial power in the household. But right off the bat, this is wrong. This is an incredibly white view of the 1950s. Women of color have always worked outside of their own homes, often in the homes of white women as cooks, as maids, as caretakers for their children. In fact, in 1918, Greenville, South Carolina, literally passed a law that forced Black women to be employed outside of the home and to carry a labor identification card that stated where they worked that must be produced on demand. So this idea that back in the day, ladies were just living their best lives inside the home and never worked outside of it, and only men had jobs, is wrong. It's historically inaccurate, and frankly, it is really demeaning to women of color. Losing financial independence means less freedom, not more. Like I said before, I'm not here to judge people who want to stay home, but I am here to question the financial logistics of losing your financial independence. Something that a lot of TradWife content creators stress is how little control they have over the family money. They don't earn any family money, often they don't have access to bank accounts, and they do not really get to voice their opinions or desires around how family money is spent. One TradWife on TikTok claims that she doesn't even leave the house. Like if I was her friend and I called her up and said, "Susie, you want to go get a coffee? Meet me at the coffee shop around the corner." She would have to call her husband at work and say, "I want to go get a coffee with Kara. Can I do that?" before she would leave the house. That's obviously an extreme side of this, but it goes to illustrate a point, which is that when we cede control over our financial lives, we cede control over the rest of our lives as well. And what does that mean for these women? It means that they have no work history, no work references, they don't have any financial access or accounts in their own name, and that aging will be very difficult for them if they get a divorce or if their husbands pass away. We have something called Social Security here in the United States, which is a very thin social program that aims to help people pay for things later in life. So the idea with Social Security is you pay into the program in your working years so that when you are retired, you can withdraw money from the program. And how much money you are able to withdraw is tied directly to how long you worked and how much you paid into the program. People who do not work outside of the home have significantly less access to Social Security than people who do. Now, there is an allowance in the program for if you are say I'm a stay-at-home wife and T-Bone works outside of the house and then T-Bone passes away. As his wife, I do get access to his Social Security benefits. But you have to be married for a certain amount of time in order to access those benefits. So partners who give up their ability to work and their ability to save money in their own name are putting themselves in a very financially precarious position. Something that I do not see a lot of TradWives addressing is this financial risk and the fact that tying yourselves through marriage to someone else is a huge problem. Divorce is very common in the United States and has been since their idealized 1950s. An estimated 41% of first marriages end in divorce. The likelihood of divorce is even higher in subsequent marriages, according to data from the CDC. Marriage is not a financial plan. It can be part of your financial plan, but it's not the whole kit and caboodle, at least not without a thorough prenup, an understanding of who gets what in the event of a divorce, and a will and an estate plan in case your working partner passes away. I find there to be inherent hypocrisy in the TradWife movement because a lot of these TradWife women are actually working. They are content creators. They are Instagram influencers, right? They have YouTube channels. They are putting out work and they are making money off of it, while at the same time saying women who work are bad or they're less feminine or women shouldn't work. And they have the ability to do this because of the very feminist values that they fight against. Because let's be clear, life was worse for every woman in the 1950s than it is now. Marital rape was completely illegal in America in the 1950s. It wasn't outlawed in every state until 1993. And in fact, when it came to prosecuting your husband for physical abuse in the early 1900s, laws that protected women were few and far between. Police would often not make an arrest until the wife's wound required a certain number of stitches. And many psychiatrists believed that women provoked their husbands into beating them. Something that kills me about TradWives is they are so quick to demonize other women and feminism, when it is in fact the rights that feminists have fought for that allow them to A, be the content creators that they are today, but B, have the protections in marriage that they have today. This thing that they are upholding, marriage, that they are so convinced is the number one protection and the number one thing that a woman needs, it's only a form of protection because feminists fought to include things like protecting women in the legal definition of marriage. I gotta calm down a little bit because I'm getting really worked up, but just the hypocrisy. Levels of depression and alcoholism were also very high for women in the 1950s. Turns out that locking yourself in the house all day and not having access to be able to pursue your own passions, build your own social life, or spend your own damn money is not healthy for you. And what if it doesn't work out? What if your husband divorces you, or what if your husband passes away? What are these TradWives going to do? Well, what I hope they do is A, make sure they are in the will and the estate plan and they are the beneficiary on any investment accounts that their husbands have. Because otherwise, a lot of these women who get married quite young could end up widowed and broke at 30, at 40. I'm not even talking about at 70 or 80. I'm talking about in the prime of your life. Like I said earlier, there's nothing wrong with wanting to stay at home. There's nothing wrong with being called to the domestic arts. And there's nothing wrong with having a single income household. But what these TradWives promote is dangerous. A complete and total reliance on your husband is dangerous. An exclusion of queer families, even from existing, is dangerous. It's really important that if this is something that you want to pursue, you have the financial backing that you need to be safe in the event that your marriage falls apart. And something that I find incredibly disingenuous about the TradWife movement is that they do not make it clear that it's okay to live differently than them. The TradWife movement is really firmly ensconced in this belief that they are doing it right and that it is the only way to live. I think it's fine if you want to live that way. It's not for me personally, but you don't see me getting on TikTok saying, every woman needs a job. Every woman needs to have the exact same lifestyle that I, Cara Perez, have. So TradWives, if you're out there and you're into this, great. I hope that you have the prenup and the estate plan and the financial accounts to protect yourself if your marriage ends. Otherwise, go forth. Feed your chickens, grow your garden, raise your 7 kids. I am all about that life for you. But please don't act as though your choice is the only choice out there. The idea that financial independence has to be sacrificed in order to have a happy marriage is a very dangerous and I think disingenuous idea. You do not need to give up access to your own money or control over household finances in order to be a good wife. And I think that any husband that asks you to do this should be regarded with a level of suspicion. A household is exactly that, a household. It takes two to tango in this sense, right? We have someone who's working and we have someone who is taking care of the home. Each is contributing to the relationship and each is contributing to the lifestyle. So each should have the same rights and the same access to financial stability. If all of the accounts are in your husband's name, if all of the work history in your life is in your husband's name, you could end up in a place that you really don't want to be. And unfortunately, there are countless stories out there of stay-at-home wives and mothers who were screwed over financially speaking when they did get a later in life divorce. Women who have remained out of the workforce for 10, 20, 30, 50 years and now have to go and provide for themselves because their husbands don't pay alimony, because their husbands don't give them any kind of settlement. There is a strong misconception in the US that in a divorce, a woman walks away with everything, but the facts do not back that up. Women are often financially devastated by divorce. According to a study published by the US Government Accountability Office, women's household income fell by an average of 41% following a divorce, while men's household income fell only by 23%. Putting all your financial eggs in the basket of your working husband does you a disservice. It does you a disservice now while everything is hunky-dory, and it does you a disservice later if your relationship ends. So that's my rant on TradWives. I just think it's important that we talk about these kinds of lifestyle choices from a financial perspective because we live in a world where money touches everything. And the more honest we can be about that, the better off I think we all are. If you liked this, please give us a thumbs up, help boost us in the algorithm, and make sure to hit subscribe.